Hey everybody, Dan Stribling here, worship director here at FCC. It's really good to have you joining us for True Tuesday today. You know something? I love stories. Stories are extremely powerful. Stories are extremely relatable. Sometimes we can hear a lesson or we can hear a talk or we can receive information, but it all comes together when we hear it put in the context of a story. Stories are things that are personal to us. I mean, because we're all people, right? Each and every one of us lives our lives with our own personal story. And you know something that I love about stories too, because Jesus understood the value of this. And so a lot of his teaching revolved around stories. And so there's a couple of simple stories that I want to share with you today. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little story of my own. So I started playing guitar when I was about, 15 years old or so. After doing this for a couple of years, my dad, who had been an incredible supporter of me in playing the guitar, he had helped me to get my first amplifier. He had supported me finding my first guitar. He's always been a real encouragement to me pursuing music, which is a huge part of the reason I am where I am today. I owe it a lot to my dad. But after I'd been playing for a few years, I had a very eventful Christmas. You see, I had wanted this particular piece of guitar equipment. This amazing floor processor that could take a guitar signal and make just beautiful sounds with it or make crazy rock and roll sounds with it. It could do all these things. And one Christmas morning, I walked into the living room under the Christmas tree to find, sitting under the Christmas tree, this right here. Now, this might not look like much to you. You can see it's not in the greatest shape that it once was in. I've played the heck out of this, but sitting under the Christmas tree was this unit right here, this Digitech RP3. Now, one of the things that means so much to me about this is that I know what it took for my dad to make sure that I could get this. You see, these things are not cheap, especially in the 90s when this was out. Digital technology was still very expensive, and I know for a fact it took saving, it took sacrifice, and it took, more than I'll probably ever know to be able to get me this awesome piece of guitar equipment to help me succeed in the music that I wanted to do. And so this has always meant a lot to me. Now, the interesting thing about this, and why I would tell this story, is because as parents, if you're a parent, you understand that, we are willing to sacrifice for our kids. They are valuable to us. They matter to us. And so it's a privilege to be able to do things to make sure they have the best that we can give them. Well, the same thing is true for God. I want to read you a couple of stories right now. Very short stories, but these are two short stories that Jesus told the people that he was teaching. Matthew, the 13th chapter, and we're going to read just two verses, 44 and 45. Verse 44 says this. Jesus is teaching, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. In his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy the field." Think about it. This man obviously didn't have the money to get it, but it was so valuable. He sold everything he had just so that he could have this treasure. I always kind of picture it as like a pirate's treasure chest buried in a field somewhere, but whatever it was, it meant the world to him. Verse 45. "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant on the lookout for choice pearls. When he discovered a pearl of great value, he sold everything he owned and bought it." Now think of the connotations of that for a second. A merchant, somebody who already has money, someone who's already established, somebody who's on the lookout for fine things, comes across the most perfect version of the valuable treasure that he's been seeking. It is so gorgeous, it is so beautiful, it is so valuable that even in his potential wealth, he sells everything he has for the joy of having this special treasure. So my question to you today, as I look at the example of my dad who was able to, do whatever it took to get me this simple, earthly physical treasure. And then as we look at the teachings of Jesus, with these stories of these two examples of people who were willing to sacrifice their earthly treasures for this one priceless thing. My question to you, where are your treasures? What are your treasures? Is the kingdom of God really worth so much to us that we are willing to sacrifice everything to get it? Even the Apostle Paul says that he considered everything in this life to be like trash compared to knowing God. One more verse, and I'll leave you with this thought. We're going to stay in the book of Matthew, but I'm going to go back to chapter 6. Jesus says this, "Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also." Look at the desires of your heart. Think about your treasure, and I would pray that you place that in the kingdom of God. Have a great Tuesday, everybody.